sis! Dad! Mom! Come on! Your story hour's on!
Presenting Your Story Hour. Building for a better tomorrow. Today's story...
He's going to be shot. Taken out there to that wall. Blindfolded and shot. Shot down. I've got to stop them. Bill Scott must not go before that firing squad. It's my fault he fell asleep on sentry duty. My fault.
Hi, boys and girls. This is Uncle Dan.
And I'm Aunt Carol. Hello, everyone. We're so glad you're with us today for a thrilling true story.
It took place in 1861 during the Civil War when Abraham Lincoln was president.
It was a troubled time for our nation, and trouble is just what Billy, a private in the Union Army, was in. Trouble that was going to cost him his life.
We call our story, Billy Scott Faces the Firing Squad.
Now, here he is. Now, calm down, Tim. Calm down, soldier. Now, tell us what happened. Tell us exactly what happened. Now, tell us exactly what happened.
Private Calkins was sick night before last. He couldn't stand sentry duty, so Billy Scott volunteered to take his place.
Good boy. That's like Billy.
Now, Billy Scott's a new enlisted man, only 19. Out here on the battlefront only 3 weeks. But he's one of the finest Vermont Green Mountain boys they've got over there in Company K.
But...
Well, what is it, Tim? You're white as a sheet.
Poor Billy had to stand sentry duty himself after he spotted Calkins.
2 nights in a row?
Yes, and Billy fell asleep. Fell asleep on guard duty.
Why, that means they're going to shoot him.
It was snowing hard and awful cold, but still I couldn't keep awake. I fell asleep twice, and I woke myself up. I know it's wrong for a sentry to go to sleep, but I'd never been awake all night, even one night before, and this was 2. Back on our farm in Vermont, we all went to bed at 9 o'clock, 8:30 in the winter. My relief says that when he came on duty, he found me standing up against a post, still holding my rifle, but fast asleep. I'm sorry. I want to be a good soldier. That's why I enlisted. My mom and dad and my brother, little Harry, they know I want to help the Union cause. But after staying up for Calkins, is he better? Oh, that's good. After staying up for Calkins, I could no more stay awake than I can spread wings and like a bird and fly.
Gentlemen, it has been 5 months since the Confederate rebels fired upon Fort Sumter, pushing this nation into a civil war. Lincoln's call for 75,000 men to form a volunteer Union Army has been supplied 3 and 4 times over. But they're beating us. We've got 22 states to their 11. We've got more soldiers, more money, more people, more war supplies. And they're saddled with 3.5 million slaves. Yet they're beating the tar out of us. The Battle of Bull Run, a national disgrace. Our Union troops turned tail and ran. Why? Why, I demand to know. Well, I'll answer it. It's because they're led by West Point fighting men like Beauregard, Joe Johnston, B. Bartow, and Stonewall Jackson. And above all, they've got Robert E. Lee. Those 6 men, gentlemen, are generals, the greatest. And who have we, I ask you? First, senile, grandmotherly old Winfield Scott, and now incompetent George B. McClellan. Those are the generals Lincoln put over us. Abraham Lincoln doesn't know how to run a war. But I tell you, officers under my command, this: we lack discipline among our Union troops. But here on my battlefront, we're going to have it. You have your orders. Now see that they're carried out. That's all. Dismissed.
Yes, sir. General.
Yes, Captain Jonas.
I've got the report on that soldier who fell asleep on sentry duty. He's an enlisted man, Private Billy Scott.
Good. We'll make an example of this boy. Have him court-martialed at once.
Yes, General Smith.
And after he's court-martialed, have him shot.
Yes, sir.
Don't allow anything to prevent his execution.
Yes, General.
I know only one man who can save Billy. Secretary of War Stanton.
Oh, we'll get passes. We'll leave tomorrow morning at daybreak. We should reach Washington at least by 9 a.m. If we speak to Secretary Chitterton, in the Treasury Department. He'll introduce us to Secretary Stanton. Chittenden's from Vermont, too, like me and Billy.
Good. We'll go.
Yes, I'm a Vermonter, boys. And I know that Billy Scott, if he's a Green Mountain boy, isn't a coward. He mustn't die. But Secretary Stanton doesn't arrive at his office until late, and there simply isn't time. If Billy's going to be sent to the firing squad, as you say, tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock, there's only one man who can save him. But fortunately, he's the best, kindest man in this whole nation. Come with me.
These reports from the Army of the Potomac. Discouraging. Ever more discouraging. We cannot win this war if things continue in this manner. Come in.
Secretary Chittenden and the soldiers he spoke of, they're here to see you, Mr. President.
Oh, yes. Show them in.
You rang, Mr. Lincoln?
Yes, Jethro. Show these young gentlemen out. Mr. Chittenden will remain. After he and I have talked, we shall let them know our decision.
Yes, sir. This way, gentlemen.
Goodbye, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Well, Chittenden, what can I do? As you know, I haven't much influence with the departments. Both the generals in the Army and the admirals in the Navy, as well, are convinced that I am the worst president in the history of the country. They say I don't know how to run a war. And my wife, of course, says I don't know how to run the nation. That about completes it.
Yes, sir. That's
all right, Chittenden. I know what you mean. At least a few people believe in me. General Smith, however, is not among them. You're asking me to interfere in his discipline, countermand his orders, and save Billy Scott's life. General Smith will be furious. How can we avoid his wrath?
It's useless, sir, to appeal to General Smith. And time is short. We cannot afford to waste it.
Only 19 hours. No, we can't. Yet I cannot issue an outright pardon, not without hearing testimony in the case, and there isn't time for new testimony.
Suspend it. Issue an order suspending Billy's execution until we can get new testimony.
You don't know these high-ranking officers in the regular army, Chittenden. They would conveniently ignore an order suspending the execution, even pretend they'd never seen it, despite the fact I handed it to them. They're a law unto themselves. In fact, they've let me know openly that they sincerely think it's a good policy, occasionally, to shoot a soldier. Aids good discipline, they contend. It wouldn't work.
But, Mr. Lincoln, we can't just let Billy Scott die.
I don't know how to save him, sir.
I'm sorry, Mr. President.
It's your carriage, Mr. President.
Thank you, Jethro.
You take this lap robe, sir. The snows are heavy, Mr. President. It's bitterly cold.
Thank you.
Giddy up.
Perhaps my generals are correct when they say I don't know how to fight a war. I interfere in their discipline too much, they say. But there's some things the President of the United States ought to see to himself. And a boy's life is one of them. I'm off now to the Army of the Potomac. Right out to the battlefront. I should arrive about 3 a.m. But how can I save him?
Hi again. We're pausing for just a moment to let you know that you may want to have pen and paper handy at the end of our program.
At that time, we'll give you our phone number and our website address so you can contact us for information on all the great historical stories your Story Hour has available for home and school.
But right now, it's time to get back to our story. Billy Scott faces the firing squad.
Billy Scott. Billy Scott, wake up, Billy Scott. Wake up!
Huh?
Private Scott.
What?
It's 4 a.m., Scott.
4 a.m.?
Yes.
Oh, 2 hours to go. I wish you hadn't awakened me. It would have been easier if you'd let me sleep until it...
Until time for the firing squad, son?
Yes.
I see.
Who are you? I can't see anything out there. It's so dark out there. And pitch black in here in this cell. Captain Jonas? Is that you in the cell block sentries?
Yes, Billy.
Who's the other man with you?
Someone to see you, Billy.
Don't want to see anybody. Not anybody except Mom or Dad or little Harry.
Billy.
Yes?
Do you want to talk to him? Now, these are your last moments. You don't have to talk to anybody, not if you don't want to.
Do I know you?
No, you don't know me, Billy. But all the same, I'd like to talk with you. I've come a long way to see you, and it's a cold, windy night.
If you're a preacher, I've made my peace already with the Lord.
No, I'm not a preacher, Billy.
It's funny. You can live 19 years and nobody pays any attention to you. But just get sentenced to be shot and everybody wants to see you. You're like a circus and a sideshow.
Won't you spare me a little time, son?
Well, that's funny. I don't have any time to spare today. But, sure, why not? Please come in.
Open the cell, Corporal.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Captain.
I don't know who you are, mister, but I warn you, don't you go upsetting my prisoner. Now, is that clear?
I think so, Captain.
I had a firing squad prisoner 2 days ago. He wasn't at all nervous, but his kinfolks came just before the execution, made him a nervous wreck. He screamed and cried and kicked all the way to the blindfold. He died hard, real hard. I don't want no trouble like that out of Billy Scott, you hear me?
I hear you.
You want some tobacco, a shot of brandy, Billy? Just holler.
I don't smoke and I don't drink, Captain. I'm not going to change my habits now at the end.
As you wish, boy. Let's go, Corporal.
It's warm in here.
Yes. That's one nice thing you can say about being in jail. Won't you sit down, Mr.
Abraham. My name is Abraham.
Mr. Abraham, there's a chair right there. Careful you don't stumble. It's pretty dark here at night. They won't allow me to have a kerosene lamp.
Oh, why not?
Got to conserve supplies. The war, you know.
Ah, yes, the Mr. Lincoln's War. Isn't that what they call it?
Yes. But it isn't right to call it that.
Oh, why not?
Mr. Lincoln doesn't like the war. Robert E. Lee and the Confederates don't like the war either, for that matter, I guess. Nobody does.
Then why are you a soldier?
That's my duty, sir.
Your duty? To go out and kill other men?
I guess I hadn't reckoned on killing anybody. But as the Bible says, proclaim liberty to the captives. We don't believe in slavery in my family, and I reckon it's my duty to oppose it. Everybody in Vermont feels that way, mostly.
I see.
Sir, how did you learn about me?
Oh, it doesn't matter, does it?
No, I suppose not.
The only thing that matters is we've become friends, you and I.
Yes, we are friends. In just a short time.
Billy, you have other friends. They're trying to intercede for you with the Secretary of War.
The Secretary of War is a busy man.
True.
Maybe you won't see them.
True.
And maybe even if they do see him,
yes?
Maybe it's wrong to ask him to spare my life.
Well, don't you care about your life?
Of course.
Then what would be wrong? How could it be wrong to try to get your life spared?
I'm not sure. But I know you have to have rules. The Army has to have rules. Even on the farm in Vermont we had rules. Dad says life is impossible without rules. And the rules that exist, that are fair and square and apply equally to everybody, these are good rules.
Did your father teach you that?
Yes, sir. Both my father and my mother. Mom says if you break a good rule, you must be ready to stand by the consequences. Afterwards, no excuse is good enough. Not even if you broke it for a good reason.
I take it there isn't much whimpering in your family. Did your father ever give you what boys call a good licking?
I'll say. And I tell you, Dad can lick a boy with the best of 'em, even a big strapping fella like me.
You didn't resent the whippings you got?
No. Well, maybe a little at the time, but not afterwards.
Why?
Because after I thought it over, I realized, like Dad said, that life is consequences. I took my pick.
The consequence was the licking.
Yes, sir.
But, Billy, a licking is a lot different from losing your life. You can get over a licking. Not many men get over a firing squad.
I know. I know, sir. All the same, it's the same principle. I went to sleep. I knew the rule. I can't expect the Army to change the rule.
And you don't want the Secretary of War to change the consequence?
Well, sure I do, Mr. Abrams, sir. But if he did, what kind of discipline would he have? If the Secretary of War pardoned me, he'll have to pardon every other sentry who falls asleep on his post. From now on, and that's bad.
What if you had the chance to appeal to the Secretary of War yourself, in person? Would you?
No.
Well, what if your case came before President Lincoln?
The president? Oh, he's too busy.
But if you had the chance to ask him, now think, Billy, if you had the chance to appeal to President Lincoln before you died, would you? Would you plead with him for your life?
You ask hard questions, Mr. Abraham. I guess maybe I'm a fool, Mr. Abraham, but I wouldn't. I've got to accept my consequences. I can't ask for special favors, not even to save my life.
You're sure?
Yes, sir.
That's your final answer?
Yes, sir.
So be it.
Yes, sir. This isn't a very nice game to be playing with a man in a death cell, Mr. Abraham.
Now I must tell you, Billy, who I really am.
It doesn't matter who you really are. You're my friend, Mr. Abraham, and that's all that matters.
Is it, Billy? Is that really all that matters?
Yes, sir.
Well, perhaps you're right. Perhaps in years to come, when I recall this night and am tempted to be sad, I can...
That's the steeple bell. It's 5:30. I got a half hour left.
Are you frightened, Billy?
If I could just see my mother once, Mr. Abraham, if I could just kiss her once more and shake Dad's hand and tell him how much I love him. If I could see little Harry and maybe tell him I'm not to worry about me, just grow up and be big and strong and true.
I understand.
I'm scared. I'm only 19 years old and I'm scared. I'm not a man like the others in my company.
Manhood doesn't know any particular age, Billy. A few colonels and generals of my acquaintance I know have yet to reach manhood at ages 40, 45, and 50.
What do you mean?
You aren't a man because of what can or cannot frighten you. You're a man by virtue of the determination with which you go out and meet the thing that frightens you.
I'm blubbering now like a coward.
You're not a coward, Billy. Your face is set like a flint, despite your tears, and that's what counts. Shall I go now?
No, stay with me. I resented it when you woke me up and asked to see me, but I like you. I'm glad you came. You remind me a little of my father. Do you have a son in the war?
No, but I have 2 sons. The younger one's 7 years old. His name is Tad. And he may be in the war, too, someday, if men don't find before then a better solution to things than guns and fighting and bloodshed.
Now I wish I knew who you are.
There's a little moonlight falling on the floor here, spilling in through that tiny cell window, high up at the top, Billy. And maybe if I walk over and stand here, maybe you can recognize me. Huh? Can you?
No, I don't know you.
Well, look closely.
I still don't. Why, you aren't. You aren't.
That's right, Billy.
President Lincoln? President Lincoln? But what are you doing here? Here in this...
I'm not a general, Billy, but a good general tries to know his bravest men, and the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, your president, can do no less.
I'm not a brave man, Mr. President. I'm just a plain Vermont farm boy who couldn't even make a good soldier. I fell asleep on sentry duty.
A brave soldier is one who admits a mistake when he's made one, and is willing to accept his punishment. You aren't afraid to die. That's bravery, Billy. Not to whine or plead, not to make excuses for failure or ask to be made an exception of when you're wrong. Why, that's the kind of soldier any army would be proud to have.
They're coming.
Yes, son.
They're coming.
I know.
Will you go out there with me, Mr. President? Will you go out there with me?
Billy, son.
I know I can face them. Look straight down those rifle barrels if you're there. If my president's there, sir, I'm not going to let them blindfold me. I won't. I'm going to stand up straight and tall and brave like my dad himself would. And maybe, sir...
Yes, my son?
You'll see me, and maybe if it isn't too much to ask, sir, afterwards, after it's all over, maybe you'll tell somebody on your staff to write to my dad and little Harry a letter and tell him how he died. Like a man, Mr. Lincoln, not scared or crying or whimpering, but like a man.
Certainly, Billy. I'll go with you, and...
Billy Scott?
Yes?
Time to go, Billy.
I'm ready, Captain Jonas.
Open the cell doors, Corporal. Yes, sir. And all right, bring him out. And hold him tight, so he can't make a break for it.
Here he is, Captain.
Ready to die, boy?
I'm ready, Captain.
Good. All right, stranger. I'm going to show you out. You can be on your way.
Captain, Billy has requested that I be allowed to accompany him to his death. He needs a friend during these last moments.
No.
He's a fine boy. I think
I said no. And when I say no, that's final. Now, you follow me out, mister, and don't waste any more of my time.
Captain.
Yes, boy?
Maybe you don't know who you're talking to.
I don't care. He can be one of those meddling congressmen from Washington for all I care. But if you don't want me to throw him out, he'd best get moving. Now, you men hustle Billy Scott along. General Smith says he's got to be shot, and it's going to be done right. Now, get, mister.
You hold your tongue.
Why, boy, have you lost your mind? Just because you're going to die, you think you can sass me? Huh?
You're talking to the President of the United States, Captain Jonas.
Hold him up here, Corporal, up. Who did you say?
My friend is Mr. Lincoln, our president.
Lincoln?
Yes, Captain Jonas. My name is Abraham Lincoln.
I knew it. I knew I'd
Hold that lantern higher. Hold it up, Corporal. Wait, why, it is.
I tried to tell you, Captain Jonas, sir.
Mr. President.
He didn't mean it, sir. Captain Jonas didn't mean it, the harsh way he spoke. He just didn't recognize you, the same way I didn't until you let me see your face.
I know, Billy.
Mr. President, I'm sorry.
Let's forget it, Captain.
If the President says he's willing to go out there to the parade grounds with me, I guess you have to let him, don't you, Captain Jonas?
I'm sure the Captain won't object, Billy. Will you, Captain?
Oh, no, sir.
Then suppose you lead the way promptly, Captain Jonas. As we know, both you and I, General Smith will be extremely annoyed if this boy, Billy Scott, doesn't die exactly at 6 o'clock. On time.
All right. Hush!
Platoon, hold. Ready. Aim. Fire!
And that's what happened, General. The rifle squad fired, but over the head of Billy Scott. President Lincoln, unbeknownst to me or anyone else, had given that order. As we all stood watching Billy refuse the blindfold, the guns discharged harmlessly into the air.
This constant interference with the Army from Washington is ruining the Army of the Potomac.
Yes, sir.
Who does Lincoln think he is?
And he's the president, General. Sir.
Yeah, he's a meddling amateur. He doesn't deserve to be president. He was elected by a minority of the voters. But he's not content to be an incompetent president. Oh, no. He's got to make us incompetent generals, military men as well.
You could still shoot Billy Scott, General.
I can't. What do you think I have here in my hand? A pardon. That's why you're here. Private Billy Scott, as soon as he's finished having breakfast in my quarters with the president, is to be handed this pardon. Lincoln has already signed it.
Hey, tell us again, Billy. Hey, tell us again exactly what happened.
I told you 1,000 times
Yeah,
already.
but we want to hear it again. Now, what did he say to you?
He said, "My boy, stand up here and look me in the face." So I did. "My boy," he said, "your life is spared. I myself am going to take the blame. I'm going to trust you and send you back to your regiment. But I've been put through a great deal of trouble on your account. I've had to come up here from Washington, and I had a great deal to do. What I want to know is, how are you going to pay my bill?" Oh, there was a big lump in my throat. I could scarcely speak. I had expected to die, you see, and got kind of used to that way of thinking. But I managed to tell him that I would pay anything, any amount of money he asked. I would work. I would save, and maybe my folks would sell their farm. And if that weren't enough, maybe I could even borrow something from my regiment buddies. I would pay it, somehow. And then Mr. Lincoln put his hands on my shoulder and looked in my face as if he was greatly sad. And he said, "My boy, my bill is a large one.
Your friends cannot pay it, nor your savings, nor the farm, nor all your comrades. There's only one man in the world who can pay it, and his name is William Scott. If from this day William Scott does his duty, so that if I am there when he comes to die, he can look me in the face as he does now and say, 'I have kept my promise, and I have done my duty as a soldier,' then my debt will be paid. Will you make that promise
and try to keep it?" I said I would make the promise, and with God's help I would keep it. I could not say any more. I wanted to tell him how hard I would try to do all he wanted. But the words would not come.
And then what happened, Billy?
So I had to let it all go unsaid. So he went away. Out of my sight forever.
Hi again. Wasn't that a great story? Aunt Carol and I love Lincoln stories.
And we're especially excited about the 5 new stories we've just produced on his life. They take us all the way from his early childhood right up to the time he was elected president. And they're so interesting.
That they are. And there's even a Lincoln activity book available that's keyed to the stories. Absolutely great for the classroom and lots of fun as well.
We know our historical tapes are a fantastic learning tool. Listen to this letter from Nevada. Dear Uncle Dan and Aunt Carol, my name is Kristen. I'm 11 years old. My brother Mark just turned 9. I'm in 6th grade and my brother is in 3rd. We're both homeschooled by our mother. My mom has bought several of your historical tapes. It's so interesting to find out amazing facts I never knew. My mother counts them as history, so I can get away with no historical reading. Not that reading's bad, but it narrows my day down. I'm very happy we can do this program. Well, we're glad you're glad, Kristen, and thanks for writing to tell us so. Hundreds of letters like yours tell us that our historical tapes make learning fun. We don't have time to tell you more right now, but you can visit our website at www.yourstoryhour.org and click on Catalog for more information. That's www.yourstoryhour.org.
Or if you don't have access to the web, just call us toll-free at 1-800-987-7879, and we'll send you a free catalog right away. That's 1-800-987-7879.
Time's up. Bye for now, everyone.
This has been Your Story Hour, building for a better tomorrow.
This is Aunt Carol
and Uncle Dan saying,
goodbye, everyone. See you again next time.